Sometimes an idea starts small and grows into something much, much bigger. That was the case for Tim and Agatha Scott and Mitt Scoots Outfitters. What started with manufacturing socks to sell and give away is now an outfitter company that employs transitioning homeless, manufactures a full line of products, serves agencies that help the homeless, and ships their products around the world. In this episode, we talk about the process of starting a social good venture and how messaging needs have changed over the last 10 years.
Welcome to the Social Good Instigators Podcast, where your host, Kirsten Bullock, interviews leaders of social entrepreneurship ventures who share what's working. Please add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hi, Tim. Thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks for taking this time to share a little bit more about Mitt Scoots and the great work you're doing.
I am super happy to join you. Thanks for having me.
Great. Tim is the co-founder of Mitt Scoots. It's a 10-year-old social good LLC. Some couple interesting things about him. He's a new dad. He explained that he and his wife are nervous new parents because they've got this precious little baby in their life now. A couple things that most people wouldn't guess. He spent some time as the Chick-fil-A cow and apparently had a can or two knocked on the back of the poor cow's head, and was formerly in the military, served as a radio host, has done just all sorts of other things, and now you're selling socks. So
yeah, well, that and a few other things, but that's what we started with for sure.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about Mitt Scoots and what you've grown into from that original sock company.
Well, we've even had to kind of change our name a little bit. It's now Mitt Scoots Outfitters, and we're an Austin-based clothing and accessories company that's on a mission to outfit and employ individuals transitioning out of homelessness.
Fantastic. And a little bit about your founding. You made an intentional decision to go with a for-profit company rather than a nonprofit. And could you share a little bit more about how that came to be?
Yeah, totally. But, my wife and I founded the company together, and we used to kind of toil at night, laying in bed for hours trying to decide what kind of structure we should be, because we didn't know how to start any structure, really. And the thing that we did first is we went and talked to all the different 501c3s and nonprofits that we had been volunteering with, where we actually found that there was a need for clothing items and employment among the homeless initially, which is the whole, I guess, genesis of why we wanted to do what we did. And we went and talked to those groups and said, hey, we have this idea. What would you think if we became a nonprofit or whatever organization? How would that be in the field for you? And they said, wow, that's a really neat idea. We like that you want to help. However, if you make this and you become your thing, you might not be able to be directly involved with it because, we're our own organization. And unfortunately, I wish it was different, but that size of the pie for philanthropic dollars and donations and grant money is only so big. And we were kind of afraid if we create another one, well, we're just going to split that pie into a smaller piece. And that doesn't ultimately help anybody. We wanted to make the pie bigger and grow it so that we could help more people. And so we thought, instead of just making it a smaller and smaller piece, let's go after a pie that's not doing anything for anybody right now. And that happened to be companies that are much bigger and just fully for profit, big athletic brands and things like that they just sell a thing by making it as cheap as possible and don't really give any turnaround to the community that they could. And so that's why we decided to go for profit. And through that, we become a lot more sustainable. We lift ourselves up. It's a bootstrap endeavor and makes us hungry. We have to make a really good thing. So instead of just being able to tell somebody our story really hard and hope that they give us something to support that cause, we have to be able to make a quality thing. By making a good thing, then we're able to go out and do, great things with it. But that's got to be part of the decision,
Mm-hmm. And then if I understand right, for every sock that you sell, you also give a sock to somebody in need?
Yeah, well, it's all of our product line. So we make backpacks, beanies, gloves, scarves, hats. Some socks is what we started with. It's a full outdoor apparel company. And every time we sell an item, whatever that is, hat, beanie, scarves, we give an equal quality item to somebody in need. Unfortunately, there is a lot of need for quality clothing items on the street. There's, weather changes a lot. It's not really easy place that you can wash clothing. And so there's a very short lifespan for a lot of the things that are out there, often most of them second hand-me-down stuff. So you buy a hat, we give it to someone in need. Pair of socks, beanie, a beanie. And then through that process, as a company, we actually are able to hire transitioning homeless to come into our packing facility in Austin. And they're the ones that actually put together all the products that we make.
Oh, that's awesome. So not only are you providing something that's needed, you're also providing a job and skill training in a lot of ways too.
That was the goal. It was meant to be kind of, if you took that one-for-one model that had existed for a little while and pushed it just a little bit further, instead of just being like, hey, here's a thing, good luck with all that other stuff. Why not try to address the core issue so that we don't have to keep giving things away?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can't do that for everybody, obviously, but for a few people we could. And if that's something that you could just organically introduce into the business model itself, I mean, you have to have employees. You have to hire people. Why not see if you can't make it work for the individuals that need that employment more than anyone else? And so we just took that initiative, and we were able to find really amazing people that can do awesome stuff. And I don't know, it's never been a compromise for us. It's always been amazing, awesome people that we work with.
Mm-hmm. And so now 10 years later, what kind of geographic area are you covering?
Well, we have our packing facility in brick and mortar in Austin, Texas on what's called East 6th Street. 6th Street's kind of this like notable wild place in Austin, and we're just a little east of that. But then we work with retail partners, roughly 150 to 200 across the United States. But then we also do online orders and ship internationally. We sent a box to Dubai, actually, like just like a week or two. Oddly enough, they bought. We have these really thick boot socks for like riding boots and things like that. Mm-hmm. So we sent a ton of them to Dubai, which I mean, they're really thick and super warm, which I would not think is something Dubai needs, but that's what they got, and so we sent it.
Okay. I think I've seen a couple of horses in the Kentucky Derby that were from Dubai.
Yeah.
Over the past few years.
I would be super like flattered and honored if someone who actually rides a horse was buying our boot socks for riding horses. Because most people, a lot of people, we kind of have this outdoor apparel offering that we sell, but not everyone's out climbing mountains or riding horses. A lot of people are going to brunch. And so we make a thing so that you can do both, but it would be really, I guess, flattering to know somebody's trying to climb mountains or ride horses with our stuff too.
Oh yeah. Imagine if somebody was wearing them in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, that would be kind of neat too.
Yeah, right. It'd be awesome. We probably would never know, but yeah, it'd be awesome.
Well, being here in the sun and just outside of Louisville, Kentucky, the Derby is a really big deal here. So it's about 3 weeks of parties for about a 2-minute race.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's all about the experience, right?
Yeah, all about the experience. So you've obviously seen some major growth over the last 10 years, starting in just one area, 150 retail partners, shipping literally around the world. I'd imagine that promoting that had some really unique challenges and offered ways for you to tell the story better. So can you share a little bit about your early days and your first thoughts on promotion and marketing and what you've learned since then?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Since we run in the world of social enterprise, we are making a thing so that we can have an impact on a social issue. For us, that is homelessness. We want to impact that in as many ways possible. But we also are a company, and we have to sell a thing to be able to do that. And so there's this really kind of dichotomous messaging that exists where we want to say, hey, we make a really awesome thing. You should take a look at it. But we also are able to help individuals by you buying that thing. But deciding which one of those levers to use and how much of it has been this really nuanced process over the years, because we don't want to just hit people over the head with this, like, do this, the world is ending, this is the only way you can help homelessness, because one, that's not true. And two, people don't respond well to that stuff if they are meant to feel guilty the moment they see that there's a problem. We really want to empower people and, celebrate the successes that we can have with this business and the people that we help. But then we also don't just want to make it this super awesome, coolest product ever kind of mentality, like these are the best hats you'll ever own, And so when it comes to messaging and promotion, it's got to be honest, but it can't be too heavy in one way or the other. And so over the last couple of years, we've, become better. We're still not perfect, but we're getting better at deciding, even to the point of what time of day people are willing to hear what types of messages, and when are people more interested to key in on the philanthropic side of our company or the product-based side of the company, and kind of have an interplay between those two things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely been a growth. It's been a learn as you go kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. And being able to tell what time of day and what aspects people respond to, I would imagine you do a lot of social media marketing.
Yeah, we do a ton of that. I mean, the company was from inception put through a crowdfunding campaign, and that was kind of the first place that you could tell people that, hey, we're trying to do a cool thing. Check out our mm-hmm. Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign. And you got to do that typically through social media, which is a blessing. It's super awesome that social media exists, and it gave this direct to consumer capacity for us, where you didn't necessarily have to have a huge advertising budget. You now could be your own publisher and find an audience that was willing to hear your message and be passionate about what you do. So we couldn't have gotten to the point that we were now had social media not existed. But that said, social media is a totally changing environment. The stuff that's going on right now is 100 times different than what it was, even a year ago, mm-hmm. let alone, 6 to 7 years ago. So, trying to change, at this point, almost weekly to respond to the audiences and how they're changing through social media. That's been a big barrier, to be honest, for us.
Mm-hmm. What are a couple of the biggest challenges and changes that you've seen?
Yeah, so I would say the environment itself, case in point, like Twitter and or Facebook would be good examples, that they used to be a place where you would check out and see what your friends are up to kind of thing. And then it became much more about news. And then as the political cycle started to happen, mm-hmm. it got really vitriolic. And what we found is that people kind of burn out really fast early on in the day, and they just don't really have the, emotional capacity to take in many more messages, whether they're, just direct advertisements or interesting stories, or like us, a social enterprise that's trying to talk about how our products can help make an impact on a social issue. People kind of are just like, look, the Rome is burning right now. I just don't have the capacity to even hear this. And so we've definitely had to deal with the struggles of figuring out, well, how do we pivot in this kind of environment? Is this even a place that we want to host our message anymore? Do we want to do these promoted posts? Do we want to be active on this platform at all? Because it seems like maybe there's an argument happening around us that we kind of don't want to stick ourselves in the middle of. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely been one. With Twitter, that's very much, just high opinion all the time. And so being a brand on Twitter already is kind of, do people even want that? Two, then to kind of interject yourself in between this very back and forth motions, that becomes even more problematic. So we've had to then divert and expand on some other places like possibly Pinterest and Instagram, where people kind of are going as an escape from those other places. Mm-hmm. So that might be a better platform for us to exist on.
So I would imagine that you're testing that. What kind of results have you seen so far?
So far, benefit. The downside is that the audience with Facebook is enormous. It's just huge. Right. And so even if most people aren't interested or are kind of maxed out for their day, there's still millions of people even after that. And so the sheer volume of it deems it to be something that will probably always have to be part of the mix. That said, it may not be the most successful. And what we're finding is that places like Pinterest, for example, someone may go to Pinterest for the, sole purpose of finding an escape. Maybe it's to discover what should I eat today, or I want a DIY project, or I'm interested in new fashion that's coming along. That's potentially a much more beneficial platform for us, and we've seen success in that testing where we want to be there to be found by these people that are kind of looking for that escape. And Instagram is essentially pretty. If it's a pretty picture, you like it, and then those pictures are really successful. So as long as we have a great content strategy about showcasing our company and what we do and who we're trying to help, then we've been able to find a lot more success there too. So the volume may not be quite as high, but the actual interaction is a lot more natural, and people are a lot more excited to meet us and find us out in those platforms.
Mm-hmm. There's something that you just said that I think is really important, that you adapted your strategy based on the platform. And it wasn't just a one size fits all and you give everybody the same message. It's really looking at each platform, what people are expecting there, and then adapting based on what you know about those platforms.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of oversimplify it a little bit, but say Facebook, it's pretty much who you went to high school with and what they're up to now, so how do you fit into that world? But that's why a lot of people are checking that. Then you have Twitter, which is literally what's happening right now. And so if you're not talking about something that's literally happening right now, you probably should just not say it at all. Instagram, it's, is it something beautiful to look at? Not, is it a goofy meme, but is it actually pretty? And people want to engage with those things. It's a picture-based platform. And then Pinterest has its reasons why each person goes to it. And so there's definitely some significant differences as to not just the audience that's on those platforms, but the intent of the audience for being on those platforms. And we want to make sure that both our brand and company and mission is being showcased and talked about in the right way on each of those platforms for the people to find it at their leisure at the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. So in figuring out your story, I would imagine your story's changed a lot from your crowdfunding days to now. But if we could start at your crowdfunding days and how you told the story then, and then fast forward to how you're telling it now.
Well, yeah. When we first started, like you had mentioned earlier, it was just socks. We had started as a sock company because we volunteered a lot, and that's what was needed. We would ask people on the streets like, hey, what do you need right now? And they have a realistic understanding of what you could provide as a volunteer in a 2-minute span. And they're not going to ask for a house or a bunch of money. They're like, I actually really would love just a pair of socks and a bite to eat. Can you help me with that? It's minor things, but it was so eye-opening that was how their kind of Maslow hierarchy of needs was being established, that like socks would even come up on your checklist. Seems kind of absurd when you're dealing with this, the gravity of the other issues that kind of impact homelessness. And we thought, well, this really shouldn't be a problem, to be honest. And so we initially just said, well, we're going to do this. We're going to do a ton of those socks. We'll do a bunch of it. And we did. And what we found is that we actually were able to meet that need in some localities. And so once it was met, and it's always temporary how long it's met because you burn through socks pretty quick. But if we were able to sustain it and continue kind of meeting that need, then we went in and say, okay, well, like what now? Do you need anything else? Well, yeah, actually, it's about to be really cold this year. I don't have any gloves. A beanie would be nice. If I could take care of these basic human needs, maybe then I would be able to take that next step of, well, I'm not freezing, so I can focus a little bit more on my own health or wellness and addiction issues or housing or job empowerment and things like that. It's really hard to kind of focus on that when you have all these other problems. So initially when we started the company, it was purely just, here's a thing, we'll hire some people to do that thing. But that's really all we are right now. And once we hit that benchmark, we said, well, what else could we do? How could we use this model to continue meeting more needs? And so it's gone from just here's socks to now, could we potentially clothe someone from head to toe? That would be pretty amazing. And so that's much more of our goal at this point, is how can we completely outfit and employ someone who's trying to get off the streets. And so, you start with a tiny bit of good under whatever minimal capacity that your company is capable of. And then if people reward you for a good product and a good message and a great mission, then you get the chance to maybe grow. And we could grow for the sake of growth, or we could grow for the right reasons and to actually help more people. And so that's how we've introduced the new product lines that we offer and continued with the employment, is it's literally stemmed from the needs of people on the street. They need stuff. We ask them what they need, and we say, all right, let's figure out how to make it.
Right. And then you sell it, and then you're able to provide it.
That's right. Yeah. So we just did backpacks was the thing that we launched just this past Friday. Yeah. Hasn't even been a week yet. And so whenever we sell a backpack, we make this nice duffel pack with this kind of drawstring top. It's like a kind of that military duffel bag, if you've ever seen one of those. It's what I used to have when I was enlisted, and it's a really useful all-terrain kind of bag. And so that's the one that we donate for each of the backpacks. And then there's also quite a few kids, unfortunately, that are dealing with homelessness. And so we get to, and we're happy to be giving to children. It is fortunate, unfortunate, but we have to. But that's a lot of the individuals that we're helping too. It's a much more dynamic audience than just, say, that gristly individual on the street corner that you're used to seeing as homeless. It's a very, very diverse audience, and we're trying to give to all types for sure.
Yeah, no, I heard a few years ago that the fastest growing population of homeless is really moms and kids. So there's a lot more than we think.
It's terrifyingly accurate, and you're never going to see them. That's the thing. People don't understand that the stereotype of homelessness is the, real gruff guy on the street corner with the "and the world is ending" sign, and that person does exist, and we want to help that person too. But that is a small fraction of who actually is homeless. And it's that person you see the most, because that mother or that child don't feel safe standing on the street corner. That's not somewhere that they want to be or need to be. Also, there's another entirely huge population of people that it's titled essentially the working homeless, where there are people that have 40-hour-a-week jobs. They work their butts off, but they're still not able to actually afford housing, because housing costs a ton of money, and there's been pretty much stagnant wage growth over the last decade. And so people are kind of just stuck in this rut. And that's a huge population that exists out there. You don't really see them that often.
Right. Well, Tim, thanks so much for sharing your experiences. And before we go, do you have any closing words to provide inspiration or encouragement for our listeners?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And I guess some people mention it almost as like a regret. You're like, do you have any regrets in starting your company? The only thing I really wish that I would have done, that I ever give for advice for other people that come to us and they're like, I want to start a thing, but I don't know how to do it. Just start. Like, that is the only thing that I wish I hadn't done, was waited. I self-inhibited my growth and our existence, because I thought, well, I don't know how to do that, and I'm not going to be able to know how to do that, and I don't know how to do that. And to be quite honest, every day there's something else I don't know how to do. And there always will be another thing on the horizon that I don't know how to do. And you just have to tackle it one at a time. If you wait until you're totally ready, then you're too late, in my opinion. And somebody else has already come up with the idea and they're off running. Best thing you can do is just start, and you got to learn as you go.
I guess that's really that entrepreneurial mindset, just figuring it out.
Yeah. You got to pivot and shift. I mean, I'm not saying just start throwing money at something that you don't understand, but maybe there's a more savvy way that you can test the waters without having to put a ton of unnecessary capital. I see tons of those people that they're like, wow, we have this great seed investment. And you're like, cool, what are you going to do? And they're like, oh, we haven't figured it out yet. How did you convince somebody to give you money to do a thing that you don't know yet? You should just, whatever it is you think you're going to do, start.
Just start.
And quickly.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for coming on the show.
It was really fun. Thanks for having me.
Good. You're welcome. And thanks to all our listeners for everything you do to make the world a better place.
Thanks for listening to the Social Good Instigators podcast with Kirsten Bullock. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll check out our prior episodes, and that you'll pass along our web address, socialgoodinstigators.com, to your friends and colleagues in the social good sector.